Welcome to the Making Revelation Simple series of videos. This video is about the legend of Revelation. If we go to Revelation chapter 8, verse 13, we see an angel flying through the midst of heaven, and his message is, "Woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth, because of the three angels yet to sound." At first glance, it would seem this angel is just being very expressive with this "woe, woe, woe." But what he is actually doing, he's conveying a message. He's assigning one of each of these three woes to the next three trumpet judgment angels, which are about to sound. We're going to look at that in detail, but before we do, let's review what we think we know about about the Great Tribulation. It's 7 years in length, and we typically always divide it into two equal parts of 3.5 years each. Normally, the first half is usually associated and thought about as being the ministry of the two witnesses. And the second half is typically thought of as being the persecution of Israel. So with that in mind, let's continue our study as we look at the three woes. The very next verse after chapter 8, verse 13 is chapter 9, verse 1. And in that verse, we see where the fifth trumpet judgment angel sounded. We're going to mark that as a break point, a start break point here. And then we're going to read down to Revelation 9:12, and we see a little phrase that says, "One woe is past." We're going to mark that as our stop break point. And that one woe is past is confirming to us that our supposition that the angel is actually assigning one of these woes to one of these, each of these angels, is accurate. So the very next verse after 9:12 is Revelation 9:13. And what we see in this verse is we see the sixth trumpet judgment angel sounded. So we're going to mark that as our start mark. Then we're going to read down 2 chapters approximately to Revelation 11:14. And we see the phrase, "The second woe is past." Again, we're going to make that our stop point. The very next verse is chapter 11, verse 15, and it says the seventh trumpet judgment angel sounded. And again, we're going to mark that as our start point. No intervening things happening between the stop and the next start. They're all sequential. Now, we're going to read down about 5 chapters this time. We could read all the way to the end of the book of Revelation, looking for the phrase, "The third woe is past," but we will never find it. What we will find at Revelation chapter 16, verse 17, is a little phrase, "It is done," indicating that the seventh trumpet judgment angel has finished sounding. So there's our 3 sets of start and stop breakpoints. Now, what we want to do, now that we have those start and stop breakpoints laid out, we're going to reread those, looking for activities that have assigned time frames hooked to them within each of the sounding of these trumpet judgment angels. And as we look at those, we're going to find that they marry up the sixth and seventh trumpet judgment angels with the 7 years of Jacob's trouble, or what we typically call the Great Tribulation. So instead of looking at that here on this particular chart, let's review it on the next chart, which will help it make a little bit more sense to us. Here's the fifth trumpet judgment angel, and here's our green start and our red stop button. And as we're reading for activities that have assigned time frames to them, we find that scorpion locusts are permitted to torment mankind for 5 months here. That's the only activity. And then we're going to likewise record it down here. Moving on to the sixth trumpet judgment angel, again, we have our green start and our red stop button, and we find 3 major activities here that John records. John records them one at a time because the angel tells them to John one at a time. And we read them one at a time because that's how John recorded them, and that's all we're capable of as humans, is taking in things one at a time. But these are actually happening simultaneously. That's where we see where an angel army kills a third of mankind, the holy city is trampled underfoot, and the ministry of the 2 witnesses. Here they are down here, happening all simultaneously, and we list them that way. Moving on to the seventh trumpet judgment angel, once again, we see the green start button and the red stop button, and we find 3 sets of activities taking place here. 1, the woman flees into the wilderness, that's Israel. And then the serpent persecutes the woman, again, that's Israel. And then finally, the beast makes war with the saints, or the house of Israel. So again, 3 separate activities seeming to take place in sequential order, but actually they're happening simultaneously, as shown down here. If we take all of these and we add them together, they're 3.5 years, and place them in sequential order, we come up with 21 years, which we know does not fit with anything scripturally. But, however, when we recognize that they're happening simultaneously, and John is just recording them one after another, then we have two 3.5 year sets, which marries up exactly with the 7 years of Jacob's trouble, or what we typically call the Great Tribulation. So once again, let's move on to another chart, which can help us understand this just a little bit better. So here's these three woes that we were just looking at here, the fifth trumpet judgment angel, the sixth, and the seventh. The sixth and the seventh, both are 42 months each, or 3.5 years. And we see this and recognize that that equals Daniel's 70th week, or the 7 years of Jacob's trouble. So if these three trumpet judgment angels are sequential, then it would make sense that these first four trumpet judgment angels, which we read about early in chapter 8, are also sequential. Not only that, but all of this came out of the opening of the seventh seal, which occurred at Revelation chapter 8, verse 1. And if these are all sequential, then it makes sense that the opening of these seven seals are also sequential. So that then gives us a foundation here of how to read and understand the book of Revelation. This is our key or our legend to understanding Revelation. Just like a map has a legend or a key, this is Revelations. This video is based on the Three Woes series of books. This 4-book series presents a seamless, comprehensive interpretation of the book of Revelation that doesn't conflict with other prophetic scriptures. To find the books, you can do a Google search of Barney Rapp's books. That will yield URL results for Amazon, which are listed below. It's highly suggested, if you're interested in studying from these books, you begin with book number 4, The Three Woes, a Revelation Commentary. For more videos, go to www.youtube.com/@3woes. Thank you very much for listening. Have a great day.